Hi, so today I want to talk about this fun topic of free will and to sort of slowly and gradually just sort of think about it calmly and let's see where we get. To some of you, what I will say might seem obvious, to some of you, might not, depending on how you grow up. Some people have really intimate, sort of strong connection and strong feeling that they are free agents and that we have free will in this world, and everything that everyone does is a free choice. You know, if someone is homeless on the street, they made bad choices. It's their fault. If someone is a billionaire, rich, wealthy, and successful, they made all the right choices and they were smart for making good choices. So everyone is responsible fully for everything that they do. And of course, this is extreme what I say right now. Most people are somewhere in the middle who can kind of recognize, okay, the homeless person in the street, they might have had some other forces. Maybe they had mental illness. Maybe they had a rough childhood. Maybe they had some kind of accident and they lost their job. Whatever can happen, things that are out of people's obvious control. So it's not obvious free will and obvious choices that made this human being homeless. In the same way, most people in the middle with this kind of opinion look at the extremely wealthy and successful and well-off people and also don't say that it's fully 100% their choices. But there's also luck, being at the right place at the right time, growing up in the right spot, having the right parents. You know, right place at the right time is so important for success and luck and all of these kind of things to happen. And most people recognize that somewhere in the middle, they think it's kind of a mix of circumstances and also our own agency, our own free will, and the choices that we make that create the life that we have. And being a human being, living a human life, in practical terms, it is really useful to think of the world and to think of people as us just making deliberate, conscious choices about what we do and where we are. If there's a bad person, it's mostly their fault, they're bad. If there's a good person, we thank them, we appreciate them, they're a good person, they chose to be a good person. But this is something I've been thinking about a lot for the past months, for the past few years, learning more about psychology and neuroscience and just the world in general. It is difficult to see and to make clear what do we have a choice in at all, because let's start from the beginning. We don't choose who our parents are. When we are conceived, we don't choose what egg or what sperm we happen to develop from. We don't choose where we are born, like what hospital. We don't choose how our parents treat us. We don't choose what environment we have when we're babies and we're crawling around, what color chair that you're sitting on, and what texture is the blanket that's holding you, what kind of sounds do you hear out from the window. All minute details that accumulate thousands and tens of thousands and millions of them, one after another, that create these beings that we are now, influences that none are our free choices. And mostly we don't choose the school that we go to, what kind of classmates we have, what kind of inspirational or mean or horrible teachers we have, how well our relationships with our classmates are, do we get bullied and picked on, or are we popular and happy? No one chooses that. And by the time when you're a teenager or 18, 20 years old, whatever, there are so many influences that have made you what you call you, that it's difficult to say that you chose any of it. Yet it's so human and natural for us to take full responsibility of where we are now. It's we made who we are, you know, this self-made person, this self-made man, this self-made woman, this so popular opinion that people talk about. I guess it's a positive way to think about it, because it gives us the kind of feeling that yes, it is up to us. If we just, put the work in, put the focus on, we can also be a self-made man or self-made woman. So that is a kind of positive message. But in truth, it seems to be that most, if not all, of the influences in our lives seem to be out of our control. We don't choose the thoughts that we have in our heads. We don't choose what we see when we walk on the street, what kind of advertisement we walk by on the street. If someone we walk by has a smiling face or an angry face. Again, thousands and millions of things that influence us on a subconscious level that we don't even notice. And these things form who we are. Every interaction, every moment, everything that happens, every experience molds who we are as human beings. Our brains are plastic and we respond to our environment. And in some cases, it's really clear and obvious. You see some kind of sad alcoholic, whoever, and you wind back the time and you see they had a rough childhood, bad parents, picked on at school, and then you're like, oh, it makes sense. Of course, this person is kind of troubled and have a difficult life. Like, what choice did they have in that? But then something weird happens when people think that they do have a choice to come out of that state. And, now they're there, but it's up to them to, sort of magically change who they are and all the influences in their past. And again, all the influences in that person's past who made that, sort of alcoholic or whatever troubled human being, all the influences determine if they are the type of troubled person who stays troubled and depressed and maybe even to the extreme kills themselves. Or if those influences led them to be a troubled person who's depressed, who can achieve some kind of relief and get out of that depression. Well, I mean, I got out of my depression, which was for years and years depressing time. I did not choose that I developed to be the type of person that I was able to come out of that. There are many events and things that happened that I can take no credit for. I wonder if there's anything that I can take credit for, truly. So this is the difficult question of if we're truly honest, truly intellectually honest, putting aside a sort of really human feeling. I mean, in everyday life, it's practical to say that we do things and we choose things, but really, if we're being truly honest, how much do we choose? And if you really think about it all, there is not that much choice left. The definition of free will is for an agent, for a person, to be able to make choices free of any constraints. And we are nowhere near free of any constraints. Our entire existence is within constraints. Constraints defined by being environmental factors, things that are out of our control, that shape us daily. And yet we somehow think that we are some immovable object that only has this life going on inside our heads. And we make choices independent of the years and years of influences that molded us into who we are now. That is a really naive way to think. So I think what it changes is that if you see a criminal, even someone to the horrible extreme of someone murdering another human being, it was not that much their choice, I would say, and it's difficult to say and people don't want to hear it, but it's not that much their choice. Every single influence in their life led them up to the point where if they were put in that situation, they would kill this other human being. It was not their choice to be that type of person. We appreciate and congratulate people for being grown up in sort of positive circumstances that allow them to be positive people. And we sort of feel hateful and vengeful and angry and mad at the people who grew up in the circumstances that made them to be sort of evil people and to do bad things. And again, in a biological, psychological perspective, it totally makes sense. Our society would fall apart if we were just, loving towards everyone, although that's another topic to talk about. Loving everyone, understanding truly everyone is, a beautiful thing, and it doesn't mean that, rapists and killers are out walking around and everyone giving them hugs. Absolutely not. Anyone who does despicable, horrible things should be separated from the world. But the way that we think about them can change a little bit, not as much as they chose to be the bad person, they chose the shitty life they had that led them up to do shitty things, but more as they are the victim of the shitty life and the shitty circumstances that made them who they are. So instead of revenge, of making their life even more bad, making their character even more in pain, wanting to inflict that pain upon others, instead of that, we can have some form of compassion and understanding that they truly are the victims of the circumstance and they deserve treatment. If you have a serial killer and you could give this serial killer some kind of a pill, and that pill would make them not be a serial killer, and they would understand, they would feel remorse, they would feel so horrible about everything they've done, would you still be mad at that serial killer if they understood there was like something wrong with their brain? Because literally, all kind of bad people, so to speak, they have something wrong with their brain compared to the rest of society, compared to the social norms and what we find acceptable. So that is a difficult topic to think about because, for me as well, and for some of you, many of you, when we have had bad people in our lives, bad things happening, it's such a natural feeling of wanting to just hate that human being, as it was their choice to hurt us, to do bad to our family member, whatever. But it wasn't that much their choice. So same way with people who are positive and happy and give to charities and want to help people, it also wasn't that much their choice to be grown up in circumstances that led them to be this positive, happy person doing good things in the world. So again, how much is our choice? And this is what I'm wondering. There is no definitive answer. I guess the point what I'm trying to get across is that there's so many things that influence us throughout our lives that to say we have a choice in pretty much anything is kind of ridiculous when you really break it down. And what is a choice really? I think in day-to-day life it still makes sense to think about our lives and think about other people as making free choices, as free as we can, because the world becomes really difficult to grasp, this human world, if you don't handle it well. If you just understand everything in this sort of lens of people not really being responsible for their actions. Responsibility is a sort of melting block of ice once we start to look closely at it, keeping in mind biology and psychology, and getting down to it. It's a melting block of ice that I am certain in the next decades that block of ice will be melted, and we all accept the idea that responsibility is a weird concept that is practical in sort of social culture, to have these social norms and stuff, but in reality, the basis for it, it's this kind of illusionary idea that we just like to think about, because if we do good things and if we accomplish good things, I think we absolutely should feel good and should feel proud of, getting out of bed, doing the difficult thing that you wanted to do. You absolutely can feel good about it. It's not like I had no choice of doing something positive in my life. Like, yes, I think that is real, and you absolutely can feel good about it, because the pain to do something difficult, the effort to do something difficult, that is real, and that is real experience. I'm not saying anything against that. But to just look a bit deeper down, of all the causal links of influences that led us to this point, where I really, no one could argue that it's 100% free choices that we make day by day. But that shouldn't take away any of the good things, any of the things we accomplish. We absolutely can appreciate. So this is a difficult topic to talk about, and what will I end on? I just wanted to point these things out. I think it's important to sort of understand these ideas more, and I think it gives us more compassion in the sort of bad situations of life. When someone does something bad, I think it helps us to understand better that everything is not 100% someone else's fault, that they were just being bad and evil. Most of the time, I really want to say all of the time, but people, I think, get upset if I say all of the time. People don't really have free choice in how they behave and what they have, and it's such a complex issue, and there are hours and hours long of lectures talking about this same exact topic. But I think it's just something interesting and important to think about in our world when we give blame to other people, and also when we appreciate other people. It's at the least, if you take anything away from this video, is that it's more complex than people think. We are so accustomed to this idea that good people deserve good things and bad people deserve bad things. If it was up to me, every single living creature's life would be simple. If more experiences can be positive, if we can suffer less and feel more joy and be more happy, I want that world. And I really hope we can create that world. A lot of crazy stuff going on in the world today. People are sick of, old, wealthy, greedy people being in power. So sick of that. But again, that's a topic for another time. So this is a complex issue, complex thing to think about, but we're beginning to unravel these kind of ideas. So I hope there was something interesting here for you. If you have any thoughts, please share them in the comments, and of course, thank you so much for watching, and take care.